Okay, so we're in AP, and we're talking about the exam for next Thursday and Friday. You know, I'm grading your papers. This is an answer to your question, and I promise you, it's taken me a while to get to them, but God willing, I get them to you on Monday. But I've graded 4 out of this class, and they're all A's. And I like the papers. You're doing things that we've talked about all year, primarily details. So even though, like, I'm not asking you to remember specific details, I'm not telling you what details to remember. That's what makes any answer an A answer, is the detail. If you have the ability, the flexibility to grab this example and that example, not just vaguely talk in general terms, and that the 4 papers I've read have done a really good job. I like to write on your paper very thorough. When I say thorough, that means you've got lots of examples. That really impresses readers. And like we talked about, examples not from just the beginning or the middle or the end, but across the board. So that's why you need to know the examples, because that proves you know what you're talking about. Anything else? Well, you can ask it again at the end and also next week. So let me give you this. It's one of those, there are no questions. The assignment is to read it carefully, closely, and to mark it up. What do you see? Particularly noticing, thinking about those questions, the 10 questions you asked, the diction used, maybe the syntax. It's not as easy to notice syntax in poetry. And then, of course, the literary devices. Anytime you see those, you need to just automatically mark them. I think they're way too easy there.
Thanks, Dan.
Oh, this is mine. All right, anybody have one? Or getting one? All right. Again, this is a matter of discipline. You play like you practice, and so you always need to do the same things anytime you read a poem. If possible, read it twice. You don't have a lot of time on the AP exam to read it twice, so you got to make the first one really count. Always notice the title. If the title is something other than the first line, then that's significant. This title is never mentioned again, and so it's very significant. Notice the name of the author. I've never heard of this person, but it's a clue. The name, even though you don't know who it is, I don't even know who it is. It's still a clue, and you'll see what I mean when you get into it. So notice the name of the author. See what you can do with it. I give you, at the very least, 5 minutes, and you need to make it, a valuable 5 minutes, a productive 5 minutes. wrap it up. You don't have a lot of time. That's a part of the problem. We ask you to read closely and quickly. That's a paradox, but that's what they're asking you to be able to do. Do you have anything that looks like that on the back? Good. I'd love volunteers, but I'm prepared to call on somebody. Anybody see? So let me just point out so I don't forget it. On the back of this packet is another acronym, which I can't ever remember. That's not a very good acronym because I can't remember it. But of all of these things, I mentioned several of them. The letters stand for title, paraphrase, connotation, attitude, shifts, title, and theme. I think that, again, the acronym, I can't even remember it. But the one that says shifts, I think is really helpful. The title and the shift. If you notice, there's a shift in the poem. And so you need that something in advance to look for. Can I ask you this? In a sonnet, where does the shift often come? And you use the right terminology. After the octave to the sestet. Now that's a Petrarchan sonnet for a Shakespeare, and you got 4, 4, 4, and 2. But you could still consider the first 8 lines an octave. So you now know where to look. If you're reading a sonnet about halfway through, start looking for a shift. All right, there's a shift here. That may be what somebody might want to address. Let me just get started. Jonathan, tell me what you saw. Anything that stood out to you?
Most of the poem, or pretty much all of the poems, no diction. So it's more like it's easier to understand, and it sounds like the person in the poem is like younger and a little less educated.
So you're saying the diction is appropriate for that reason.
Yeah.
That's an important thing to add. That's good. Other things we can say. Will, what else can you?
I also thought it was low diction because all the poems in English, and he's talking about somebody who had just moved to Pennsylvania, so it's like it kind of fits because he doesn't even know what the word for forehead is.
So, is that a shift?
Yeah.
Explain how that incident about halfway through the poem acts as a shift in the poem.
Well, at the beginning, he's like explaining what was happening, and then it kind of, where is it? It's on the 4th verse or whatever. He sort of goes into like quotations, and that's where the diction goes down a little bit, or like it goes worse and worse. So he says mission.
But what is shifted? Like something in the poem changes. What is it that changes because of that incident, the one you're describing, where he gets hit on the head and he doesn't know the right word? Why is that the highlight of the poem or the peak of the poem? Tom, what do you think?
I feel like his attitude changed.
Explain.
At the beginning, I guess he seemed more like excited or ready to play, and then after that, after like everybody's laughing at him and stuff, I mean, he kept playing, but like I'm sure he was not as excited. perhaps.
Well, that's what you would expect to happen, but that's not at all what happens. That's what you would expect. Okay, people are making fun of me. I'm gonna walk off I'm going home. Nobody likes me. That's what normal. You're right about that. But what is it that actually happens?
Oh, he like talks about before that daydreaming and like not really being like that involved in it, and then once he does get hit, it like encourages him to be better.
How?
Like,
Why? What happens?
Because they all laugh at him and like
But he doesn't walk off. Why not?
prove him wrong.
that would be a motive that you might have. What do you think, Jacob?
Laughing at himself too.
Yes, he laughs too, and even tells us, he uses the word twice. This is what I'm talking about, the close reading. Use the word important twice. Where is that? And that was important as. So why is laughing at himself while they're laughing at him? Why is that so important? What does it do? What does it transform? What does it change?
Makes him happier.
Why? What has now happened? Layla, what do you think? Surely somebody sees this. What changes? Something is transformed, yes.
Well, I kind of think that like when he starts laughing, it's like they're laughing together, and like the boys aren't actually laughing at him.
Together. And so why is that important that they're laughing together? Yeah.
I feel like it kind of like brings them all together,
Yes.
like the whole team, like it unifies them and it gives them like one common focus and something that they're all enjoying and laughing at, and it like just makes the whole experience brighter and like pushes them to like become closer and then like play even better.
Very good. Very good. They are now, he's now fits in. See, one of the themes of the book, of the poem rather, is fitting in. He now fits in. And this is what it took to fit in. And it changes everything. Well, I wrote down, it changes everything, yet nothing has changed about one thing. What has not changed? Now he fits in, but what has not changed? Yeah.
He's still not very good at baseball.
Exactly, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he whiffs and he misses, and because he's one of them. And I think that's, if you had to pick out the meaning of the poem right now, that's significant to it. Thank you. What else? Now that we kind of got that out of the way, what else is going on here that contributes to that? Caroline, what do you think? What'd you notice, rather?
At first, he seems to be describing them as individuals and like points out things. He's not super complimentary here. He points out specific details about the people, individualizing them. But after the hit and the laughter situation, he talks about how they're working together and focusing more on their
And for the
aspects.
first time in the poem, he uses the word we and us. You know, you're the pronoun generation, right? Good luck when you go to college. I've heard horror stories about that. You know, it'd be great for grammar teachers. Now they finally know what pronouns are. You have to pick pronoun, whatever they're doing in college. But it is an important thing to notice, the pronoun shift from I to we. That happened in another poem, another story. Go back to those players. You said they are individualized, and I think that was the word you used. In what particular way, name me an example of how they are individualized and personalized. Eloise?
He like describes certain things about, like he says, like Bill Forson, like, and talks about his jacket.
Yes.
And
But what else does he tell us about several of those guys?
Give us their names.
Their names. They're not the tall soldier. Remember the tall soldier, the tattered soldier, we saw that, the loud soldier. These guys have names, and what do you notice about the names? Remember the clue? I gave you a clue at the beginning. I don't know who this guy, never heard of him in my life. But what is the author's name? If you can't pronounce it, join the club. But notice his name. Now he gives us the name of the player. What do you notice about the names? Daniel, what do you notice? But he gives us about 5 names. In a short poem, that's probably important because he goes to the trouble to give us names.
I just found them pretty basic.
Yes? What do you mean basic? I'm talking about the last name particularly.
Their last names are a lot less unique and more,
The more what?
I guess, more common things that you
For
see
America,
in
right?
America, yeah.
What's his name? Janikian, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. So his name is different, which emphasizes what, Daniel?
It shows like their difference and their separation.
That's right. Shows you the differences. Yeah. What have you got, Natalie?
it also says in the second stanza, like, my notions of baseball in America are growing fuzzier, so when he says "in America," you can
Right.
tell that he's from somewhere else. And the title is set called like How I Learned English.
Did that surprise you? It's not How I Learned Baseball. Apparently he hasn't learned baseball very well. Why is it titled How I Learned English? I thought it would be How I Learned Baseball.
Like at the end, it says he starts using baseball terms.
Yes.
And he's picked that up, so that's what he means by
Yes.
How I Learned English.
Yes, this is about, and what does that say about the theme of the book? I guess you could say this, Olivia. What does it say about the whole point, not of the book, of the poem, the whole point of the poem? If it's about learning English and playing baseball, what's the point? What is he trying to tell us, the author?
He's just saying like English is kind of like a basic thing to learn, but in this situation it was just like.
Why is it so basic?
Because it's something you just like pick up easily, so. it's
But,
not-
but what about this guy? He's from somewhere else. Is he picking it up easily?
No, I guess not. So,
But pursue that. How is he picking it up?
through his teammates and like through like playing sport with them. I guess,
Exactly.
Just hearing what they say.
Exactly. Baseball is the means to the end, which is to learn English. If I was in France, believe me, I'd want to learn French because are they talking about me? Are they saying bad things? I mean, what are they saying? What are they talking? Am I being cheated here at this market? I can't understand a word that I want to fit in if I'm going to live there, so I need to know their language. Let's go back to the names. One more time, look at those names. Do you see any particular name that might reveal something? Maybe it's a little thing, but I think it's important. I'll read them to you. Bill Corson, Chuck Keller, Ron O'Neill, Jim Dennis, and Joe Barone. I'll just pick out two names, O'Neill and Barone. What do you notice about those last names? What nationality is O'Neill? More likely. Probably Irish, maybe Scottish. What's the nationality of Barone? It's Italian. He's Janikian. So what does that tell you about these guys? What is their background? The O'Neill guy, where did his parents possibly come from? Another country. What about Barone? Where did his great-grandparents come from? Another country. What does that tell us about Janikian? What's going to happen to him in 2 or 3 generations? He's just going to be like them. It's not going to be at all odd that, okay, batting third in the lineup is Greg Janikian. Sounds like a baseball name now. It doesn't sound like you're from somewhere else. It sounds like you're from here. You're an American. So I think that's a beautiful picture here. Everybody came from someplace. Your name was foreign at one time, but now it's not. One last thing I'm going to ask you to do, but one last question. Look at the way this, where's the setting? I was very disappointed that nobody knew this. This literally is a specific setting, a specific place. Yeah.
Is it what says Williamsport? Is it the Little League World Series?
I didn't have anybody in the other class who know that. Isn't that kind of ironic and interesting that this baseball story takes place in the mecca of Little League youth baseball all over the world? Kids from all over the world come to Williamsport, Pennsylvania every year to play the World Series, the Little League World Series. A lot of major leaguers played in it. And this story takes place there. And he doesn't make a big deal about it. He just mentioned, oh, by the way, this is Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And he's kind of like, get it? Well, if you don't know that, you missed it. But all right, so I'd like you to do one last thing. I'd like you to write down what you think the meaning is. We've talked so much about that, and these papers I'm reading, you're making the effort, and that's all I can ask. Make the effort to identify the meaning of everything you read. So see what you can do with that. Write down in a sentence articulate the meaning, what you think, given the different strands of things we've talked about, the different themes. Sure. All right, it's important, whether I hear it or not, it's important you write it down, because that's, somebody's gonna read these eventually when you write on your essay on the test. Kylie, what did you say? How did you put it?
I said although these parts can be difficult, it's important to remember that everyone can't move somewhere and hard work and dedication will pay off in the end.
Yeah, like it. How about when?
I said, I think the meaning is found in the dual learned English through his experiences in America and also how he made
How he made what?
He made like friends.
Yeah, he fit in. I think that's a lot of stories could be about fitting in. That's like a universal theme. How do you get to be a part of this? You're an outsider. How do you get to become an insider? Maddie, what did you say?
I said getting yourself involved in something, especially if it's new for you, is good because you have to start somewhere.
Very good. Can I point out one last maybe strategy? It's a little thing, but remember when we did those data sheets for Pride and Prejudice, and I think we did it for something else. And I thought one of the great questions on there is describe the opening scene and its significance and the closing scene and its significance. And I kind of put that to work here, and I looked at the opening word, literally the first word, and the last word. Now that may not always yield much results, but here I thought it was interesting. It was an empty lot. What does that do? In my opinion, it sort of raises some suspense. What do you mean, it? What's it? And then it says an empty lot. And again, your job is to find meaning. Nobody's going to question you if you're making that effort when you write this. And I thought it's an empty lot at the beginning, but look what's happening at the end. It was, just a lot, but things have changed since then. And finally, what's the last word? It's lips, which ties into the title. It's about the words. It's about the articulation, the language. So the last thing, hum baby. Somebody asked what that meant. Any baseball players here? Why would a kid say something like that? Not that people say that today, but
Something you say in baseball, like slang.
yeah. Am I right about this? Particularly, I don't know if it's the same as you get up in the league. There's always one kid on the team that just won't shut his mouth out there. He's always just, he's at shortstop or something. He's talking to the batter. He's talking to the pitcher. He's encouraging. But he's just running his mouth. He's not saying anything of significance. But that's a part of baseball. That's the sound of baseball. Particularly if you're on the field playing, you might not hear it up in the stand. I thought that was a perfect. He's now become a baseball player. He knows the position. He knows what to say. He's still not very good, as we said earlier. All right, that's all I've got. We need to keep doing this, trying to get you to look. I think you're getting better. Your papers, so far, so good. You've got about 6-7 minutes. Let me know if I can help you or direct you anyway And then Monday we'll do one more. I have one other poem that we'll do that's more of a formal poem, non-modern poem. Is this the syntax one? No, well, you know, I asked you, like, the subject is, what is syntax and how it's used, so I think I'd like to get it myself. You know, we talked about, periodic sentences, we talked about questions, this entire poem is a question. Why is that significant? And then things like repetition, that's just rhetorical questions. These are really informal. I like anaphora. Remember ascendaton and polysyndeton. Are they conjunctions or not? So just, you don't need to know them all, but these all describe sentences. Beyond just describing a sentence, you always have to use it. That's a good question.
So like abstract and concrete diction, like how would that bring out like a
Well, concrete diction is imagery. Concrete diction in this poem would be the ringed by elms and fir and honeysuckle. You can smell it, you can see it. That's concrete diction. Even the end, sweetly on my lips. That's an image. Sweetly there is the sound, rather than the taste. Abstract or more the ideas. And in here, this is mostly concrete. I don't see a whole lot that's abstract, but the abstract would, if you're talking about freedom or love, and you know, it's not specific concrete images with the senses. So, yeah, that's on the back. They always remind you that, like the word empty. To me, that has a lot of connotation. I don't like empty. Nothing wrong with the word empty. It just describes, but I don't like it. That's connotation. I conjure negative things when I hear the word empty. And poets use those words. Maybe, I mean, not maybe, they do, exactly. Pick words for their connotative and denotative values. I like the word stung. He stings the ball stung by Joe Barone. I mean, those are just great, that's a great verb, too.